Welcome, fellow travelers. Welcome to all who have journeyed this path for a while. Welcome to those who are new to the path. Welcome to those who are not sure where the path lies. Welcome to new visitors and to old friends. Welcome to the young at heart, to those of all ages and colors, all orientations and gender expressions, all abilities and cultures and opinions. Know that you are welcome here, no matter what. For this is God's house, and all may enter here. Welcome to everyone. We hope that you find peace and uplift in our worship.
Today's scripture comes from the book of Exodus, from the Common English Bible, and it's in 3 sections. The first is chapter 2, verses 23 to 25. A long time passed, and the Egyptian king died. The Israelites were still groaning because of their hard work. They cried out, and their cry to be rescued from the hard work rose up to God. God heard their cry of grief, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. God looked at the Israelites, and God understood. Section 2 is chapter 3, verses 1 through 15. Moses was taking care of the flock for his father-in-law Jethro, Midian's priest. He led his flock out to the edge of the desert, and he came to God's mountain called Horeb. The Lord's messenger appeared to him in a flame of fire in the middle of a bush. Moses saw that the bush was in flames, but it didn't burn up. Then Moses said to himself, "Let me check out this amazing sight and find out why the bush isn't burning up." When the Lord saw he was coming to look, God called to him out of the bush, "Moses! Moses!" Moses said, "I'm here." Then the Lord said, "Don't come any closer. Take off your sandals, because you are standing on holy ground." He continued, "I am the God of your father, Abraham's God, Isaac's God, and Jacob's God." Moses hid his face because he was afraid to look at God. Then the Lord said, "I've clearly seen my people oppressed in Egypt. I've heard their cry of injustice because of the slave masters. I know about their pain. I've come down to rescue them from the Egyptians in order to take them out of that land and bring them to a good and broad land, a land that's full of milk and honey, a place where the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites all live. Now the Israelites' cry of injustice have reached me. I've seen just how much the Egyptians have oppressed them. So, get going. I'm sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt." But Moses said to God, "Who am I to go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt?" God said, "I'll be with you, and this will show you that I'm the one who sent you. After you bring the people out of Egypt, you will come back here and worship God on this mountain." But Moses said to God, "If I now come to the Israelites and say to them, 'The God of your ancestors has sent me to you,' they are going to ask me, 'What's this God's name?' What am I supposed to say to them?" God said to Moses, "I am who I am. So say to the Israelites, 'I am has sent me to you.'" God continued, "Say to the Israelites, 'The Lord, the God of your ancestors, Abraham's God, Isaac's God, and Jacob's God, has sent me to you. This is my name forever. This is how all generations will remember me." Section 3 comes from Exodus chapter 4, verses 10 through 17. But Moses said to the Lord, "My Lord, I've never been able to speak well, not yesterday, not the day before, and certainly not now since you've been talking to your servant. I have a slow mouth and a thick tongue." Then the Lord said to him, "Who gives the people the ability to speak? Who's responsible for making them unable to speak or hard of hearing, sighted, or blind? Isn't it I, the Lord? Now go, I'll help you speak. I'll teach you what you should say." But Moses said, "Please, my Lord, just send someone else." Then the Lord got angry at Moses and said, "What about your brother Aaron, the Levite? I know he can speak very well. He's on his way to meet you now, and he's looking forward to seeing you. Speak to him and tell him what he's supposed to say. I'll help both of you speak, and I'll teach both of you what to do. Aaron will speak for you to the people. He'll be a spokesperson for you, and you will be like God for him. Take this shepherd's rod with you too, so that you can do the signs."
In the narrative arc of this biblical story, our protagonist, Moses, notices, clarifies with God, and takes action. More colloquially, Moses pays attention to what's going on around him, argues with God, and then ultimately his words and his actions match. Though, to be sure, Moses needs a little convincing and a resolute God to get to that point. Now, you may recall Moses as the baby in a basket. At a time when the Pharaoh ordered all male Hebrew babies killed at birth, the midwives, Shiphrah and Puah, defied that order and let Moses live. Out of desperation and fear, Moses placed him in a basket and put him in the river in the hopes that he would somehow survive. Discovered by the Pharaoh's daughter, Moses was adopted and lived in the palace. Well, until the day he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew slave. That's the day that Moses murdered a man and fled to his father-in-law Jethro's place outside of Egypt. As our story opens, Moses is shepherding Jethro's animals when he comes across a burning bush. He stops to watch closely. How would he have known it was not consumed if he didn't stick around long enough to see? If he didn't take the time, if he didn't pay attention. But let's look at this story sequentially, not the order in which the narrative tells it, but in chronological order. The first thing that happens is the people in Egypt are groaning under the weight of their enslavement in Egypt. God notices, or more accurately, God pays attention to their groans and to their suffering. God is ready to help them, but cannot do it alone. And so God sends a burning bush that is not consumed in the hopes of gaining someone's attention. From Scripture, then Moses said to himself, "Let me check out this amazing sight and find out why the bush isn't burning up." When the Lord saw that he was coming to look, Moses called to him out of the bush. God called to him out of the bush, "Moses, Moses." And Moses replied, "I'm here." And then the Lord said, "Don't come any closer. Take off your sandals because you are standing on holy ground." God notices God's people. Moses recognizes the burning bush, but does not notice the sacred ground on which he stands. Not to worry, though. God is a relational God. So God tells Moses to remove his shoes. I wonder if we sometimes fail to notice or pay attention to the sacred around us. I mean, we get so busy or buried under our angst and worries that I think we sometimes fail to perceive God. I wonder how many burning bushes we miss in the midst of our noisy culture. Moving along, God has noticed and pays attention to the enslaved people. And so God calls Moses to free them and bring them out of Egypt. And what's Moses' response? "God, you've got the wrong guy." Moses tries to talk God out of his plan. Moses argues with God. And for each excuse Moses offers for why God should send someone else, God provides a rebuttal or a support, sometimes both. It's okay to argue with God, but a piece of advice: if God is determined that you should do something, you might get some additional help from God, but you will end up doing it. Now, we have free will, but God's love and justice will not be deterred in the face of fear or a desire for the easy path. Moses had free will, but he did end up taking the action God wanted him to take. Moses goes to Egypt to free the people with a God-given staff and his brother, Aaron, to assist him. God paid attention. God chose action. Moses paid attention, argued with God, and then took action. Maybe this is why we don't want to notice. I mean, we know that noticing what's going on around us, we know that noticing God means change. It means we have to be different. It means radical love and concrete action. Maybe we don't notice not because we don't see, but because we're running away from God's claim upon our lives. Sure, we're sometimes too busy to notice. That happens, but I think that can be just as convenient an excuse as those offered by Moses. Maybe we blame the poor for their poverty so we don't have to do anything about it. We blame people of color for the high rates of incarceration of people of color because we're afraid to face Pharaoh. We're afraid to face the way we benefit. Moses didn't deny the people deserve freedom when he argued with God. He just wanted someone else to do the intimidating and dangerous work of holding Pharaoh accountable for the injustice in the world, in Egypt. And I hate this as much as you do. After a year and a half of COVID disruption and so much else going on, I don't want to do the hard work that God calls us to do. I just want to pretend the world is better and different than it is. I just want to keep my head under the covers and dream of a happy place that is no more or perhaps never was. But God will not let me. We can try to convince God we're not the right person or the right church to face the injustice in the world. We're old, we say. We're busy raising kids, we say. We don't know what to do. It's too hard. We don't like the way people look at us. We can try to convince God like Moses did if that's what we want to do. But God will hang in there with us, responding with rebuttals and supports. I mean, look around you. Look around you in this community. Look around the sanctuary. It is filled with errands and mystical staffs. We've noticed. We can argue with God. And now we have a choice. We can pretend that Jesus didn't say love your neighbor. We can pretend that faith without works is all that matters when we know that faith without works is dead. Or we can live into what we say we believe. Argue with God along the way if you must. I often do. But be the people that God calls you to be. So here's the thing. When you respond yes to God and take loving actions in the world, it's not easy. But you will have a sense of satisfaction and inner peace better than any of the things that our culture or politicians or fears or wants tell us we need. Notice, engage, act, pay attention, argue and clarify, but go to Egypt. The people need you. Be God's people.